today is a band class. So preferably, I'd like you to have a longer band. You can certainly modify with a shorter one, but just be careful if your band is really tight, that you may actually want to really let a little bit of tension out of it. For example, if you're working your shoulders, or if the band really is too short, too tight, and you can feel that it's restricting your movement, moving your pelvis, you can't stabilize, for example, the pelvis, then just lose the band altogether. So we're going to begin with a little bit of breathing, and I want you to take the band and you're going to pop it around the sort of back and base of your ribs, like so. You don't need to be too fussy. And I just want you to activate the posterior ribs by a little bit of a breathing practice. So we'll stand, feet hip socket width apart. I've got a little bit of tension into the band so that I can actually get some feedback from the band against my rib cage. I'm going to take a deep inhale and feel those posterior ribs really opening up and out to the side, and exhale. Just 3, inhale, and exhale. Turn to the side for the other one, and one more, inhale, and exhale. And then from there we're going to go into our rotator cuff. Now, you've got a feeling of where that band was, so keep using that breath. So begin perhaps standing to the side again, laying the band across the palms. We're going to tuck the elbows in by our sides, make sure the shoulder blades are long and lengthened down your back, and you're just going to pull outwardly. Resist to bring it back. Now watch how my elbows are staying close in towards my waist. And again, we open out to the side, resist. Be careful that the shoulder doesn't roll forwards. Keep your breathing going. So that lovely breathing that we did at the beginning, try and think about that throughout this little rotator cuff exercise. And again, we take it out to the side and resist back. If you want to make it tighter, you just bring a little less of the looseness that there is in the band. And again, pull out, resist. Just show you again from the side, pull out. Note how the forearm is staying absolutely horizontal. We'll just do one more, out to the side, and slowly bring it all the way back. So we're going to do a little bit of shoulder, a little bit of neck. We're going to stand onto the band, slightly angle myself, and you're going to hold onto the band quite tightly, probably going down like so. And I want you to just allow yourself, again, hip socket width apart with the feet, shoulders nice and relaxed. Just want you to lift one shoulder blade up and draw it back down. So simply one shoulder blade up and back down. So really think about this coming from the shoulder blade and back down. So it's not as such a tension, shoulder shrugs, just a single shoulder blade lift and back down. In official terms, we elevate and depress. Elevate and depress. Try not to let the shoulder roll forwards. Elevate and depress. Now on this next one, leave the shoulder blade lovely and lengthened, and just allow your ear on the opposite side to drop down towards the shoulder. So you should get a lovely stretch all up through the neck. You could always add a little rotation towards the floor of the eyes, bringing it all the way back, ear to shoulder, and all the way back to standing. We'll do exactly the same on the other side. So from here we're holding. So I've got quite a tension onto my band, and again, I'm simply going to think shoulder blade lifts, shoulder blade lowers, shoulder blade lifts, shoulder blade lowers, and again we lift and we lower. Now also notice how I'm not bending my elbow. So what I want you to do is and pushing it back down. It's very much the shoulder blade and it draws back down. We'll just do a couple more shoulder blades, so make sure that your elbow is not doing any work here. Lift and lower. And I'm going to keep that lengthened position of the shoulder blade. Remember, the collarbone doesn't shorten forwards. I'm going to allow my opposite ear to come down towards the shoulder. Breathe. Remember what it felt like to breathe into that band at the beginning of the class. Now, if you feel like it, you can take a little rotation towards the floor with your eyes. Just rotating all the way back and then to come all the way back. Now, I'm going to just keep my foot into the band right now. We're going to do a little lunge. So I'm going to take my foot forwards. That's the banded foot. My other foot comes back. And I'm going to keep a little tension into the band. I haven't crossed it. I've just got it in both of my hands. Now, come into your lunge position whereby the knee is directly over your ankle and allow yourself to tip forwards a little so that you can almost see in the mirror, or you can see in the camera, that my head, my body and my leg are pretty much in a straight line. Now simply from there, I'm going to do a little bicep curl. So I'm going to pull up, resist back. Pull up, resist back. Now if you wish, you can push down and lift that back heel. Down and lift the back heel. Down, lift the back heel. Down, lift the back heel. Now again, my elbows are nice and tight into my waist. So really thinking about those shoulders remaining in a good, stable position. We'll just do 3 and back, 2 and back, 1 and back. Now from there I'm taking my arms straight. I'm going to take them all the way back and we're going to tricep, kick back. So I now keep my elbows nice and high and just reach, resist. So the only joint here that is working is that elbow joint. I'm keeping the back leg currently still so I can really focus on my form for this tricep. Pushing it back, resist. We'll do 3, resist, 2, resist, 1, resist. Now stand onto the band with the other foot. So make sure it's as flat as possible and reach back with the new leg. So we're going to move straight into our bicep curls. So we curl, pull down, curl, pull down. Now we can lift, push down, lift. It doesn't really matter which way the heel is lifting or lowering relative to the bicep curl. And down, lift and down. And if you're finding that balance is problematic, then you can just keep that back heel down. Lift, 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 lower, lower, lower. Lift, 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 lower, lower, lower. We'll do 2 and down and 1 and down. Now with a straight arm I'm going to pull back. I'm just going to release my pinky fingers from the grip of the band. This is a little more comfortable for me. And then you take the arms back as far as you can and simply bend at your elbow, kick it back. Bend, kick it back. So feel how your shoulder blades are really, really stable here. Kick it back, bend, kick it back. Bend, kick it back. We'll do 5, kick it back, 4, kick it back, 3, kick it back, 2, kick it back, 1, and kick it back all the way in, and we'll step off the band. So the next exercise is very much for those of you that might be sitting at a computer and your head ends up in this position here, rather like a sort of dragon that blows out flames, like this. So what we're going to try and do is just work a little bit at the back of the neck. So make sure your band isn't all stuck together, so that you can have a nice flat area of band. And you're going to place that flat area of band behind your middle skull. Okay? So the band is going pretty much like so. And I want you to hold it, not too tightly, but you'll sort of work out what feels good to you. And I'm holding it with first finger and thumb, standing like so. And I want you just to think from your current position where this is the computer screen head, get that head right on top of the spine, and you're going to do a tiny baby cervical nod. So that is from this position here, creating a tiny bit of length at the back of the neck. And then you're going to push gently the back of the head into the band. And then you can release it and lift the eyes again. If you want a little tiny bit more tension, just pull a little bit more into the band with a slightly shorter grip. So again, we're going to find the cervical nod and push a little into the band with the back of the head. And all the way back with a release. We'll do 3 more. So tiny cervical nod and a little push into the band. It's not good for the double chins. And then slowly pause again back into your start position. 2 more. Find a tiny double chin and push the back of the head into the band. And release. We have just 1 more. So start in a good straight position, eyes looking straight ahead. Create that tiny little cervical nod. And then slowly from there, we're going to push a little into the band. Perfect. And bring it all the way down. And we're going to come onto the legs now. So the neck has just worked that little bit at the back of the neck. So rather than being all shortened, we get some nice length into the back of the neck. So now I want you to take your band and you're going to stand on it, fairly close. And we're going to go into this lovely lateral hip and the glutes. So I want you to just make sure that your band is not too short here. If it is, you're going to keep your arms straight, okay? And you might just be able to manage this with a shorter band. Maybe you'll have your feet beginning a little closer. It's up to you. But when my feet are together, the band is pretty taut. Okay, so I've not got a big loose bit of band underneath. So you can see that when I pull the band apart, it really is quite taut. And we're going to hold, now if you can, if you have got a slightly longer band, we're going to hold with our arms like so. So this is how it's going to appear. Okay, no leaning backwards, really think about a good spinal position. And so from here, all I want you to do is step to the side, other foot comes in, step, come in, step, come in. I'm going to see if I can get 4 of those steps all the way across to the other end of my mat. So I go 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm not lifting high with my legs. I'm keeping my knees from bending, so my knees are not bent. Now, let's go. I'll come a little bit closer into the middle of the mat. We're going to go 1, 2, and 1, 2. 1, 2, and 1, 2. And again, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So you should be feeling that lateral hip. Now we're going to just do singles. 1 in, 1 in, 1 in, 1 in. So really feel that your leg is really straight. Big toes are pointing forwards. Move from that outer hip. We'll do 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, and pause. It's a really good one. Just shake your legs out. Really nice one. If it feels really tight, give the heel of the hand a moment just to really get into the glutes like so. So from here, you're going to take the band and we're going to work on glute med. So smaller muscle than the gluteus maximus, and sometimes for people that are running or walking, you'll find that there may become a little knee problem because it allows the leg to roll in as you're moving. So as you take a step forwards, because glute med is weaker, the leg tends to roll in. So quite relevant if we're doing a lot of walking or running. So we're going to take the band and we're going to put it around our thigh, like so. And I want you just to step forwards. Now I'm pulling out a little all the time with a relatively straight arm. My other leg comes back, so I'm into a little lunge position again, not too far apart with the lunge. And I've got a constant pull on the band. So in other words, the glute is having to work hard to stabilize the leg. And all I want you to do simply from here is just a straighten and a bend. A straighten and a bend. So as you move that leg backwards and forwards like so, you're having to work hard to keep that thigh bone nice and straight. So if the band wasn't there, and I'm pulling quite firmly out, so if the band wasn't there, that thigh bone might collapse in. But the band is there to stop the thigh bone from rolling in and hence activating your glute med. We'll just do 5, back in, 4, back in, 3, back in, 2, back in, 1, back in. Let's do exactly the same on the other side. All really useful little exercises to prevent imbalances. And also we get into these movement patterns which we get very used to, but they're not necessarily fully supportive. So from here, I'm pulling that band out. And we're just going to come into a little knee bend and a straighten. A little knee bend and a straighten. Knee bend and straighten. Knee bend and straighten. So what you don't want to see at any point is that your thigh bone falls out of alignment with your hip socket or your ankle. So make sure I'm still in the frame. So we bend and straighten. So again, we're trying to make sure that this thigh bone stays in good alignment. And I really am pulling that band out quite firmly. Straighten, we'll do 4, straighten, 3, straighten, 2, straighten, keep the shoulder down, 1, and straighten. So, straight into a little box position. So we're now going to put the band around a single foot. There's no crossing over at all of the band, and if you have got a long one, you want to try and keep it as even end to end as possible. So we're going to come down into a little box position, and I'm going to hold the band with both hands. So basically it's underneath my palm. And I have a knee underneath each of the hip sockets, shoulders are beautifully stable, neck is beautifully long. I've got quite a tension in the band because I want that resistance. Fill the back and the base of the lungs. Remember the breathing when you filled that posterior rib, or encourage the posterior rib to pull out. And you're going to now just push all the way out with your leg and resist it back in. You push out with the leg and resist it back in. Push out with the leg, resist it back in. So I want your big toe to always face down and push out and resist in. Straighten and back in. Straighten and back in. So there's not only work going on in our glute muscles, our hip extensors, which are really important if you've been sitting, but also we've got all the work going on to stabilize the upper body, middle spine, the neck, the shoulders, the hands. And on this next one, we're going to push all the way out, hold. We're going to do a little bit of abduction. So we're going to take the leg out and back in. Now keep that big toe pointing down. Imagine there was a cloth on the sole of your foot. And back in. So we go out to the side and back in. And I also want you to imagine there's an electric fence underneath your leg so it doesn't drop out when it goes out to the side. Out, back in. Out, 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 back in. We'll do 4, back in. 3, back in. 2, back in. Feel how that spine has to stay straight. Pause, all the way back in. And we'll do exactly the same on the other side. If your wrists get tight, shake them out. You can always do this down here. You can do it here, whatever works best for you if your wrists get weary. So we take the band and we push it around the other foot. And then slowly from there, you're going to allow yourself, I'll maybe turn around so that you can see better. You're going to allow yourself to come back into that box again. Or here, even. Remember, this is good for wrists, if they're bothering you. This, if you can manage it. And I want you to think about your neutral spine, your bottom ribs in, your shoulder blades softly down your back, your neck is super long. So remember, your head isn't dropped down. Remember that exercise when you had to pull the head a little back. So we're going to push all the way out, resist the back in. Once you get the feel for the exercise, see if you can just go a little higher. And again, pushing out, out, out. Resist, resist, resist. So try not to just let the band pull your legs straight back in. Reach it out, resist it in. Reach it out, resist it in. There's flexion in the ankle, which will also help you to keep the band on there. Try when you're putting the band on to keep it as flat as possible so it doesn't ping off your foot. And we'll just do 2 more. Feel that hip extension and back in. 1 more. Hold it here. Now remember, your big toe is pointing down. Your hips are square. So if you feel you're hiking a little, you can always go into almost an imaginary internal rotation of the working thigh bone. So you're going to come out a little and pull it back in. So if you were a dog and you had a tail, your tail would never move. So your tail is just pointing straight back behind you. Out to the side and back in. 2 glasses of water balanced onto the either side of your sacrum. Out, back in. We'll do 5. Back in. Are your shoulders collapsing every time that leg moves out? We'll do 3. So really strong through the shoulders. 1 more. Keep breathing into the back and the base of the rib cage. 1 more for luck. All the way back. And then slowly let it come all the way down. Perfect. So we're going to do a little bit of 100. So now I want you to take the band, and it's going to go around, first of all, your underside of your calves. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't lift their head, neck and chest, I would advise that you have a little towel underneath your head at this point, or a block, or some books, or a cushion, or something that works well for you. So you're going to slowly let yourself come all the way down to the mat. So as I say, if you don't want to lift your head, neck and chest, put that towel or cushion underneath your head now. But if you can, you're going to lift the head. Not quite yet, but everybody will lift their legs up. You're thinking 100 here. So it's very much a breathing exercise as well as an abdominal exercise. So what we're going to do with the hands is we're going to be pulling down and just doing gentle pulses with the hands. So get the tension in the band that feels suitable to you. Be careful of the position of the thigh bones. Watch that you're not just tucking in too much. But when you're in virtually this 90-90 position,
can you make sure that your tail does not drop down towards the floor? So I have lifted in my mind almost millimeters my tail. So I'm going to take a wide full inhale into the back and the base of the lungs, and as I exhale, lift the head, neck and chest up. Be careful of the position of the thigh bones. And we're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Third breath, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fourth, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember to get that head, neck and chest up. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lower for a moment, and now pull your thigh bones apart. So the band should be tight enough that you really have got quite a bit of work going on through the outer thigh. Make sure your ankle, knee and hip socket is well aligned, and we're going to repeat. Slowly, little tiny bit of length at the back of the neck, lift your head, neck and chest, make sure that that tail is gently lifted. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 more sets, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. My counting is never very good when I'm trying to speak and think. And then slowly we bring it all the way back down. Can you, if your neck feels at all tired, just roll your head a couple of times from side to side. Can you release the band and now put the band around your feet? And it goes around the widest part of both feet, and you're going to reach both legs up towards the ceiling. And you can just allow your elbows to come down so that they're nice and heavy. Your tail is not curled right up. I want you to try really hard to have almost a little bit of a curve in the low back here, an invisible tiny curve, just so you can feel a little bit of your hamstring stretching here. So just feel this position for a moment, make sure that you feel comfortable, neck is super long. And I'm going to take a grip into the band where I come from the outside and hold in. So from the outside and hold in. Now slowly from there, I'm going to take a little bit more length into the arms. My head, my neck, my chest lift up. I lower a little the legs and we just lift and then bring it all the way back down. And again, a little bit of length at the back of the neck and just lift. You don't need to come very high if it doesn't work well for you. And then all the way back to start. And again, a little bit of length at the back of the neck and just lower those legs, pushing the feet together and all the way back. Now, if you can, we're going to create a little bit of teaser out of this. Length at the back of the neck, pick the head, neck and chest up. Then as I start to lower the legs, I lift my heart, push the pelvis forwards and lift into that teaser position. Now curl the tail underneath you to bring it back down. And again, lift the head, neck and chest. Lower the legs. So now we're going to straight spine, so you need to find that little bit of curvature underneath your low back. Lift, 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 and lower all the way back down. We'll just do one more. You can always do this, by the way, with a bent knee. You would push the legs away and lift it all the way up. So if the hamstring is the thing that is stopping you, please go to that bent knee modification. I'm going to do one more with the straight leg. So lift the head, neck and chest, lower the legs a little, lift the heart center up, 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 and let it come all the way back down. Perfect. So we're going to release one foot so that it comes down towards the mat, bent knee position. And I'm going to change my grip now so the palms are facing inwards and I can bring my elbows straight down to the floor. So again, I've gone into a neutral spine here, imagining a tiny little ice marble, cold icy marble underneath the low back. That doesn't throw the ribs, but I'm also pulling my seat bone right down on the outstretched vertical leg. So really getting a nice little hamstring stretch here before we begin. Now from here, I've brought the other leg, happens to be my left leg, a little closer in towards me because we're going to do some bridging here. So I want you to slowly just lift straight up and straight down. And again, straight up and straight down. Now test the water. If this is as best it gets for you, then you're just going to hold and lower. You're going to work at this level. Now watch those shoulders don't round forwards. Keep the elbows down throughout. And this time we're going to lift up and just hold it here. We're now going to lower and lift up. Lower and lift up. Lower and lift. Just 3 more. And lift. Be careful that the hip doesn't drop on the working side. 1 more and pause. Now slowly from there you'll melt the spine back down, all the way down, 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 pause. You could reach the leg out long. You could take the band into just one hand, holding nice and high up. The other arm goes out to the side, and we'll take a little stretch across. Just feeling a nice stretch. Do whatever feels good to you, lower, higher. We've done these plenty of times in the classes. You could even roll your head to the opposite side if you feel that's beneficial to you. Bringing it all the way back, bend the knees so that you can just transfer your foot and just make sure that you're not losing your band so it's nice and flat. So whenever you're ready from here, we're going to think about first finding your neutral spine. I'm going to bring my elbows right down and pulling my seat bone on the left down, I straighten into a nice little hamstring stretch. So we'll feel the hamstring stretch first. I'm dropping the toes down to intensify it. And just breathe again. Find length in the spine, find a softness across the collarbones. Make sure that your new support leg is close enough to support you. And whenever you're ready, you're simply going to lift straight up and lower back down. Lift straight up and lower back down. Straight up, lower down, and straight up and lower down. Now this time we're going to lift up and hold it up there. Keep those collarbones open, and we're going to lower and lift. Lower and lift, lower and lift. We'll do 3 more, and if the band is tight enough, you'll get a really lovely stretch in the hamstring. Just 1 more, lower and lift. Now melt the spine all the way back down, down, down. Reach that leg beautifully long. Hold the band nice and high up, other arm out to the side. Be careful you haven't flattened your back out. And you're going to slowly pull that leg across. You can look towards the outstretched hand if that feels nice. All the way back. And now we're going to put both feet into the band. You might want to hug in for a momentary second, then allow your heels to come down and carefully stretch them all the way out. So we're going to do a little roll up from here. Little bit of length at the back of the neck. Lift your head, neck and chest as you inhale. And then exhale, allow the band to help you to come all the way up, 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 up. And again, draw your hip bones lightly backwards, all the way down, down, down. Collarbones are open. And again, an inhale, all the way back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. And again. Curling that tail underneath you, pushing the big toes away from you, the little toes towards you. Can you inhale as you lift head, neck and chest? Allow those arms to be drawn forwards with stable shoulder blades all the way back up, back up. Now I'm going to take a little bit more tension into the band, and this time I'm going to curl back and pause, changing my grip slightly that I could do another little bicep curl from here. So we curl in, resist back, curl in, resist back. So keep your elbows pretty much in constant alignment with your armpits. Keep the collarbones beautifully open. We come in and we push back. In and push back. We'll do 3 and back, 2 and back, 1 and back. And then we'll come all the way forwards. I'm going to pull the skin out from underneath the seat bones. And when I take a stretch forwards, it's going to be a hinge forwards. Hinge, 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 hinge. Because the rounded back can actually overly stretch and hurt a low back. I want you to try much more to stretch those hamstrings from a hinge and a straight back position, holding and breathing. So while we're here, if you find this is difficult, sit on a towel, sit on a cushion, some books, something along those lines, or bend your knees. Okay, we're going to do a little rotation. So I'm going to cross the band over, like so. And I'm going to sit as tall as I can on top of my seat bones. Remember, I'm pulling my seat bones all the way backwards. And I'm simply going to bend one elbow and bring it back. Bend the other elbow, bring it back. Just a simple elbow bend initially. Elbow bend and back. Elbow bend and back. Elbow bend and back. Now if we can, we're going to elbow bend, take the other arm a little in front and out to the side and find a rotation. Can you remember from previous videos when we were thinking about drawing the arm back in order to put our hand into our back pocket, to take the wallet out of the back pocket? So remember, you wouldn't let your shoulder lift. You draw the elbow back, the other arm would reach forwards. Forwards, and because we've got the band a little out. So you should feel that your seat bones are absolutely glued to the floor. Back and out. Be careful that those shoulders are not lifting. I'm just going to do a couple of these facing you, just so that you can see the form. So we pull back and out, and again back and a little out. So I'm really trying to focus on growing taller and not letting my shoulders lift. And one more, out and back. Perfect. So now, just be careful that your band, like mine, isn't a little stuck together. You're going to hold your band, and you're going to hold it with your thumbs like so, okay? Now we're going to come down into doing a little bit of plank work, but if we've got our, quite a good tension I would suggest in the band, if we've got our arms slightly pulling out, then we're going to activate our middle deltoid, which makes life a little bit easier in the plank. So we're going to keep it really simple. Remember, you want quite a nice tension onto the band. My thumbs are facing up. My hips are not stuck underneath me, so sometimes just walk them a little up towards the waist. Heels are just flopped out to the side. And I'm pulling a little outwardly on the band. Not so much that it's going into my neck. The bottom ribs are not collapsed. The shoulders are super relaxed, and the neck is really nice and long. Now all I'm going to do is imagine a little sling underneath my hips and bring myself up into a plank while I pull out on the band and let it come back down. And we repeat, lifting up as though I had a little sling under here and all the way back down. And again, pull out on the band, lift as though you had that little sling and lower back down. And you will notice that I'm not letting my bottom stick up or letting my shoulders come behind my elbows, and back down. And again, we can lift up. So if you want to make it slightly more challenging, remember, maintain that neutral spine, pull a little out on the band, then you can hold a little longer and lower. We'll just do 2 more. So we lift, and we lower. Just one more. Lift, 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 and lower back down. So from there, carefully push yourself up. A little stretch if that feels good to you, however you feel is appropriate. And we're going to now take the band and we're going to put it around our top foot. Do a little bit of side lying to finish. So put it around the widest part of your top foot. And we're going to lie down, underside leg is bent, and I'm taking quite a tension into the band. So I can either outstretch, I can have my elbow bent, remember arm can always be in front, whatever works best for you. I'm going to anchor my hand firmly down onto the floor. If you feel that you're much more comfortable up here, you can always be up here as long as you are pushing that top hip away from you. So that's really, really important. So all I want you to do from here is lift and lower. So we've got that lateral hip working again. We lift, 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 lower, lower, lower. So I want you to really make sure that you're pushing your heel away from you. You've got a large icy marble underneath your waist. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. And the higher that leg goes, the more vulnerable you are to collapsing in the waist. So make sure that you keep pushing your top seat bone away from you. We'll just do a couple more. Lift, lift, lift. Lower, lower, lower. Now pause at hip height and you're going to bring it forwards and pull it back. Forwards and pull it back. Keep that hand anchored in or on the mat. If you feel that it's just too strong for you, this with the tension, you can always let the tension out a little bit or just do this without the band. But the band does provide us with a nice support. Be careful of your top shoulder as well. Neck is super long. And we'll just do a couple more. Back, back, back. Forward, forward, forward. Last one and all the way forward. Bend your knee. Slowly from there, we could just take a little stretch. Figure four, lifting up, holding either underneath with both hands or with one. We've done plenty of these. Maybe you can hold here and just feel that lovely stretch in the glute. And you can roll away from the direction of the stretch if that feels like a beneficial progression in the stretch. So remember, if you are stretching your right piriformis glute region, then you would end up rolling to the left. So however works best for you, we're going to come around to the other side, new top leg. This is our last little exercise. So put that band around the top foot. Make sure that you've got a pretty even length on both ends of the band. And the underside leg, remember, is bent. And so from here, either outstretched down by the side, bent in the elbow, anchor that hand, push the top seat bone away from you, and slowly from there, you're going to lift and lower. Lift and lower. So very similar to the standing lateral hip work that we did. Lift and lower. Keep thinking that the higher the leg goes, the more you have to stabilize the pelvis and think about the form. Always remember that your pelvis is very unstable, so it's able to do a lot of movement. So it's up to you to really think about stabilizing the pelvis, which helps your lumbar spine to stabilize, because remember, it shouldn't be moving around a lot. It's not designed to move around a lot. But also, this helps us to open up our hips a little. It's one thing having a stable pelvis, but if your hips are immobile, then it makes movement a lot harder. We'll just do one more. Lift, 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 sit at hip height. Now we're going to go forwards and we're going to go back. So forwards, a little bit of hamstring, back, lots of lovely hip extension. And again, back, 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 forward, forward, forward. Back, 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 forward, forward, forward. Back, 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 forward, forward, forward. Remember, I'm pushing my top seat bone away from me all the time. Top seat bone, so that that underside waist doesn't collapse. Back, back, back. We'll do 2 more. And back. And 1 more. And back. Allow yourself just to release the band onto your back. Little figure 4. Lifting up. Hand, elbow. Up to you however you do this. It might be easier for you with your foot on the floor and just taking a little stretch. This might be very definitely enough, but if you can, we progress it a little. Remember, I never flatten out the back here. Breathing always really important with any stretch. We've done these so many times that you must be getting familiar with them. So I'm taking it a little away from the side of the stretch, so I'm rolling a little to the right. And just 1 more of these, all the way back. And careful with any transitions, all the way back up. And then I'm going to carefully stand back up again, walking my hands back, reset lower back, upper back, eyes. And we're going to just take that band one last time around the back and the base of your rib cage. We can reach the arms out. And you're going to inhale as your arms come in, and exhale, push the arms out. Inhale, and exhale. So really feel where that band is again. Exhale, inhale, last one, exhale. And then slowly from there, last little thing, bringing our arms up. I'm going to laterally flex to the side, hold, underside shoulders long and lengthened. I can take a little progression by shifting a little the weight into the stretching side, underside arm comes up. Now remember, we laterally flex using the rib cage all the way back up. So open the ribs on the stretching side. That brings you into that lovely lateral flexion. We can hip sway a little towards the stretching side, all the way back so the weight is even on both feet. Underside arm comes up. Now use your rib cage to bring it all the way back. And I'm going to pull out, back, open, 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 open. And again, out, up, extension of your back as you come all the way back down. And again, lifting it up, out, back, all the way, open, open, open. Last one, back, up, shorten that middle upper back, all the way back down, and pause. Very, very well done. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you really soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.